would like to take a look on Surah 5, verse 8. It is a verse I read today while I was compiling everything regarding those who heed warning. And I came upon that verse. And sometimes when you are reading the Quran, you sometimes read it and you haven't really read it, and you overlook some things. And that's quite normal. It's mainly because it's the Word of God. But this one was very fitting into my, I wouldn't say current situation, but it was one of the key experiences I had in the last months that really changed me as a person. And this verse is very connected to myself. And I would like to read that verse. It's not only one verse, but it starts at chapter 5, verse 8. And I will just start and I will then comment on that. O you who heed warning, be responsible towards God, witnesses to equity, and let not hatred of a people move you that you act not equitably. Do justice, that is nearer to prudent fear, and be in prudent fear of God. God is aware of what you do. And God has promised those who heed warning and do deeds of righteousness, they have forgiveness and a tremendous reward. And those who are indifferent to warning and repudiate our proofs, they are the companions of hell. O you who heed warning, remember the grace of God towards you when a people purposed to stretch out their hands against you, and he restrained their hands from you, and be in prudent fear of God. And in God, then, let the believers place their trust. So this was verse 8 to verse 11. I will start with verse 8, and there God calls us to be equitable, and that we should do justice, which is self-explanatory. In a kind of way, we should be role models of the good. But the interesting part is the third part of the verse, and that is, and let not hatred of a people move you that you act not equitably. So there might be people whom you hate due to certain reasons, and especially if you are young and you're full of testosterone, and you had a lot of disappointments in life. It is very easy, especially when it comes to believers and so on and so forth, that you develop a very deep hatred against someone. And in my case, it was a waverer. And if you don't know what a waverer is someone who believes and then he does not believe, and then he believes and does not believe, and then he will continue to be in the darkness, and he will eventually land in the lowest depth of hellfire, along with those who spurn guidance while claiming virtue. And those people are very, very destructive by nature, because they are your best friend in one moment. They are the closest brother you ever had, and in the next second, it's like a light switch. They are turning everything against you. So you are the cause of all problems. You are evil, and all of the people, all of those who spurn guidance while claiming virtue, which he is befriended with, are now the light bringers of his life. And so he just turns the things, he turns the narrative, he turns the truth as he likes, and he never decides for the one or the other. But I will do a Quranic based review on the Waverers really soon, God willing. So this is where the hatred towards the people can arise. In my case, it was very, 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 like, very deep hatred, like blackness. Yeah, it is very. It is not easy to describe, but I was literally on the edge of, like, saying, "Oh, well, that's I have to do it, so I can live in peace," which is, of course, which was not the right thing. It was unjust, and this hatred of in this case it was a person, a waverer, moved me to be not equitable, and instead of just saying what the Quran says, saying what God says, and that is to abstain from him and to cut the relationship and to just say effective words, and that's it. I wanted a little bit more, let's say that. I wanted to really know it. So in fact, I didn't knew this verse before, so it is really interesting to see that a verse exists that could have prevented some other things. But let's move on. So, do justice, that is nearer to prudent fear, and be in prudent fear of God. God is aware of what you do. So God sees, God knows. He knows. He knows when you try to be in the dark side. And here he is just giving you, in the next verses, he's giving you the very common pattern in the Quran that he just says, yeah, those who heed warning and do deeds of righteousness, they will have forgiveness and a tremendous reward. And the other side, who does the opposite thing, they will go to hell. And this is a very common pattern we see in the Quran. We see it with Jannah and Jahannam and the garden and the fire and good and evil. And this is very common. It's I think in almost every chapter you will see that kind of duality. But this is for us to recall where those people will eventually land, and that we should not drain ourselves in hatred and in darkness. And God is aware of that if you don't listen to him in this verse. So don't do it. But if you do it, in my case, God has a verse that is referring to us again. O you who heed warning, remember the grace of God towards you when a people's purpose to stretch out their hands against you, and he restrained their hands from you, and be in prudent fear of God, and in God then let the believers place their trust. So, coincidentally, this is exactly what happened. So I ignored God's commandments, and I could have prevented it, but this whole the injustice I did to that person led to a confrontation where this person purposed to stretch out their hands against me, against myself. And it was very close. It was a very intense moment, if you want to call it like that. And I can recall. It's crazy. If you would have know the details of it, you will never believe me. But I cannot talk about it now. And he restrained the hands from you. So the only reason why that didn't escalate it quickly was because God restrained his hands from me. And be in prudent fear of God, and in God then let the believers place their trust. And sometimes in the Quran you have, like in this example, you have the commandment of God, say, do this and do that, and it's very implicit. It's very implicit always. You have to, maybe you have to experience the situation so you understand the verse better, I guess. He is also talking about, like, in verse 8, he's talking about that you shouldn't do it. And if you did it, this is going to be he will say, well, remember when you didn't do it, and that escalated because you were unjust, because you hated that person so much. Remember how we were the ones who restrained their hands from you, against you. And this is, I think, this passage alone, and this experience I had, is like, it's very unreal. It was very unreal, but it also, it let me grow in a kind of way. And then in verse 12, God is talking about the agreement with the children of Israel, and then there's another juz. For everyone who does not know, a juz is a 13th of the Quranic text. So you can divide the Quranic text into 30 parts, and they are called juz. So you have like one juz for a day, if you want to read the whole Quran in a month. So this this is going to be my conclusion. This was my experience. This is my interpretation, if you want to call it, of this verse. Maybe someone will eventually learn from that. I don't know. But I hope you learned something useful. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.